complicated question because every farmer is an individual and every rotation is individual. So on this sheet that Caitlin, our student on the Farmers for Soil Health program, is handing out are just some key considerations for you to consider and talk about with, if you're a grower to consider, or if you work with growers to get them to start thinking about. So first thing on here is cost. Of course, things cost money, but I've heard people refer to cover crops as a type of insurance. I pay for my own insurance, right, to make sure that I'm healthy in the future. Sometimes things don't have a direct monetary benefit, but we do them anyway. But there is a potential risk in terms of cost because you are investing money in seeds. You want to make sure you have equipment that's appropriate for planting what you want. If you are doing mixes, do you have 2 separate seed boxes? Do you have one for your fine seeds, something for your larger seeds so they don't sort on you in the seed box? Of course, there's time, which is another type of cost. Crop rotation. Are you trying to diversify your crop rotation? Are you planting something after soybeans? Because we know that we don't get very much residue on that, and we're very, very susceptible to wind erosion out here. If you have cattle or livestock, this is what I get a lot of questions from out here in the West. A lot of folks like to graze their cover crops. So they ask me, what should I throw in there? And I have some examples of things we throw in there behind me. All right, so stress the emotional cost of trying something new and just managing that risk internally and financially, and then other difficulties associated. And we have a little recipe here on how to craft a cover crop cocktail. If you look up seeding rates for different cover crops, they'll tell you how much to plant. But if it's in a mix, you typically take that seeding rate divided by however many seed species you have in that mix. So we have an example of a 6-way here. And in terms of deciding what's right for you, cover crops really give you a chance to diversify and intensify your fields in a way you might not with a commodity. You can really take advantage of your otherwise fallow season and put something there so you're not leaving bare ground. If someone's new to cover cropping, I would definitely not recommend going with a complicated mix. Some of the NRCS and other recommendations give you like anywhere from 5 to 20 different species in a mix. This gets very complicated. You get in the weeds too much. I always just recommend keeping it simple, starting out with something that you know will grow well. A lot of folks around like oats, but a lot of folks also really like mixes because they're trying to take advantage of the different functional traits of cover crops, which we're going to talk about. So behind me here, we have a soil pit. You don't have to be shy. You guys can come over and check it out. We have 3 different monocultures here. These are not necessarily the mixes, but I did this so that we could look at the different root architectures offered by different cover crops. So here we have oats, which are pretty common for cover crop, pretty common for cash crop out here too. Oats just love growing in North Dakota. And they have these really fibrous root systems that don't let them fool you. They're fine, but they are mighty. They are very good at breaking up compaction. You get a lot of good pores made from those roots as the plants develop and die. In the middle here, next to my fancy photo tape, and I did try to describe this pit, but it's very dry and very clay. In the middle here, we have a brassica mix. It's supposed to be radishes and turnips, but they did not turn out that well. Not ideal, but these big tap roots, people like them because they are also very good at breaking up compaction. They have these strong root systems that can break through hard pans and like get in there, building pore spaces where otherwise you had compaction. And here on the other side is something that's very popular, and they did not establish very well. I'm kind of in a weed field right now, but we have some peas. So people like to grow legumes as their cover crop because there is a potential for some nitrogen credit. I won't say that you're going to save a ton of money on nitrogen by planting cover crops because that low C to N ratio of your legumes, they decay so fast. You end up with some decent coverage if they grow really well, but by the time you burn them down and plant your next crop, you're not going to have a lot of residue. If you want a lot of residue, I recommend something more in the grass family. So oats are a great option. The poster child for cover crops is cereal rye, right? I feel like if you've ever heard anyone talk about cover crops, they talk about cereal rye. It's not very popular with wheat people, so sorry, wheat people, but it does have allelopathic effects, which means its roots put out chemical signals that stop weed seeds from growing. So it does have its advantages in terms of weed control. But just the canopy coverage and the living roots in the ground will also help control the weeds. We do have a lot of weeds here. I'm not blind. But we planted our cover crops pretty late. We planted these, where's Glenn? In like June, right, Glenn? Early June. Yeah, this was not the most important thing we planted this year. We had a lot of variety trials and stuff, but we got these in early June. I'm pretty impressed with how much they grew in the time they did, but we've had a dry summer and North Dakota is tough. So I'm pretty impressed with what we've got. The oats definitely look the most impressive. We have some sedan and the cover crop plots down that way, and even there, yet the oats look a lot better. I got a soil knife here if you guys want to poke at it and stuff. See how clayey it gets at the bottom there? Each of those nails represents a different soil horizon, and most of those are not marked by color, rather by texture, because it gets pretty clayey down there. But if you get in there, you can see, despite our minimal growth, we still have a lot of roots down there. I don't know if those are necessarily from, I think we had oats here last year. I don't know if it's from last year's crop or this year's crop, but despite how dry and clayey it is out here, we still get some pretty good root depth out. You guys have any questions? What's up?
So you're talking about talking with a variety of farmers. Are they growing the cover crops for feed for livestock or a CI score if you're selling for the biofuel market, or what? I mean, there's a wide variety of reasons why to grow it. I'm just kind of curious, the ones you talk to, what's the purpose?
A lot of them do it. It almost feels like a moral thing. Like they just feel like it's right. They like doing it. They notice the difference in their soils over time. So currently, a lot of the farmers I talk to are involved in that Farmers for Soil Health program. So they're also looking for ways to like cover some of it, because a lot of them have told me they just do it anyway. And any way to help them offset their cost is good. So guys that just do it anyway because they like it, they like the results they've seen. I've also had organic producers use it for like weed control and things of that nature. Tons of cattle guys. Guys love to graze their cover crops. It's real big. I hope that answered your question. Good deal.
So what's the consequence down the road from all the lamb quarter and green pepper we don't see here? It goes away next year?
No, we did not beat the weeds planting this year. They were starting to come up when we planted, and we didn't get a very good burn down before. And cover crops, they have their complications, right? If you did a pre-emergent herbicide, you're at risk of your cover crops not emerging. So it takes a lot of consideration and a lot of thought and planning into getting into it, which is that like time and stress investment. But I would not recommend doing a monocrop of your brassicas. People usually stick those in a mix with like 50 pounds of oats or rye, and then 1 to 5 pounds of turnips or radishes, or both, because you don't get any weed control. This is awful. But the oats look a lot better. They still have some weed problems, but a lot more stand here than in our brassica, and especially in our peas. Our peas did not come up very well. But typically those will be part of a mix. When I was in Kansas, we tried to do winter peas in a field. We planted them on November 3rd, and I think they got this big, and we couldn't even call it a cover crop. It did not work out for us. Do you want to say something, Caitlin? Go ahead.
Just in case you want to call more paper around, Taylor has Farmers for Soil Health pamphlets if you want to look at getting acres enrolled. And also,
in that cardboard box over there is cover crop field guide. So if you have more information about specific species, that has a lot of good details. Yeah.
Plugged your extra materials you brought out here.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, I made Caitlin carry them, so we got to plug them. So if you want, I think they haven't updated it yet, but the 2023 cover crop guide has a bunch of different species in it, way more than I have time to talk about today, and their different functional traits and feeding rates and things of that nature. But I'm always happy to talk about cover crops.
And if you don't like the graphic, don't tell me. I made it.
If you don't like it, just keep that to yourself. Any more questions?
What's your top 3 things of advice to a farmer that's looking at going to start to do cover crops? To make that fun, take that fun.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it cheap. I think it gets really risky if you're and overwhelming emotionally, right? Because if you're like, I want to try cover crops. Oh my gosh, everything I look at tells me to plant 15 different species, and I only have this drill. And keep it simple. If your neighbor's planting like an oat cover crop, or if you have something left over that you can plant, brown bag laws apply. But if you have something you can legally plant, I would go for something like that. The grass seeds are much cheaper than the legume seeds, and they tend to come up a lot better. So your odds are a bit better there.